Okay, we are live.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us this evening for our East Lansing Human Rights Commission meeting. Today is Wednesday, July 7th, 2021, 7 p.m. And again, thank you all for joining us this evening. And I'll just jump into our opening here. The City of East Lansing occupies the ancestral Go right into roll call, if you please.
Chuck, you were frozen, and so we didn't hear most of what you said, but I'm happy to do the roll call, unless you want to do the acknowledgement again. So I'll just do the roll call. Commissioner Pat Cannon.
Present in East Lansing, Ingham County, Michigan.
Commissioner Grigsby.
Present, East Lansing, Michigan, Ingham County.
Commissioner Honey. Commissioner McWhirter.
Attending remotely from East Lansing, Ingham County, Michigan.
Commissioner Miller.
Present, East Lansing, Ingham County, Michigan.
Commissioner Davis Dunn. Commissioner, I'm gonna butcher your last name, so please forgive me, and I'm gonna work on it. Rafiota Slavinsky.
I already knew it was me. Yes, present. That was great. From East Lansing, Michigan, Clinton County.
Commissioner Sadar. And Commissioner Tyler.
All right, thank you, Elaine. We do have quorum tonight. Just by the skinniness of our hair here, we got it. Good again to be with you all. We're gonna jump right into item 1.2 and look for an approval of the agenda of 7/7/2021. If there's no amendment or changes to that agenda, I'll look for a motion. Moved by Commissioner Catherine. Is there a second?
Second, Miller.
Seconded by Vice Chair Miller. Thank you. Is there any discussion in regards to the agenda 7/7/2021? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? So moved. All right, we'll move to item 1.3 and we will look for an approval, or I guess we'll look for an amendment for approval for the minutes for June 2nd, 2021.
Pat Cannon, so moves.
Moved by Commissioner Cannon. Is there a second?
Seconded by Commissioner McWhirter.
Seconded by Commissioner McWhirter. Thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so moved. All right, we'll move on to item 2.1. Does not look like we do have Councilmember Bacon with us tonight. Is that correct? Okay. No word for that. Okay. Maybe he'll be joining us a little bit late here. We'll acknowledge him once he gets here, hopefully. And then we'll move to item 2.2 to staff liaisons, Hardy and Neumann.
I have no comments this evening.
The only comment that I would like to offer the HRC is that it was a pleasure to work with Commissioner Honey and Commissioner Cannon on the upcoming July 11th event. I'm looking forward to the discussion and to also just by way of information, let the HRC know that we are launching our cultural education and capacity building for the entire City of East Lansing workforce beginning July 14th. So I'm excited about that. And I have a position posted for a full-time executive secretary for the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Those are all my comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I'm having some internet issues, Vice Chair Miller, so you be up and ready just in case I'm not capable. The rain sometimes gives my internet a little bit of problem. So as Mrs. Hardy was talking, I froze. I think everyone else was just fine. So I apologize.
Mr. Chair,
Please go ahead, Commissioner Ken, go ahead.
I have a question for Elaine. Did you ever get my latest attempt to send you the comments?
Yes, I did, Commissioner Cannon, and thank you for the reminder. There was a press release that went out with your quote on it today, as well as the flyer for the July 11th event.
Okay. For everyone's wondering why I asked that, for whatever reason, the first 6 times I tried to send it, it went to others, but not to Elaine, and I have no idea why. But I'm glad you got it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Ken. Is there any other questions for our liaisons at all? Yes,
Yeah.
Commissioner Catherine, please go ahead.
I was just wondering, what is the city doing in terms of getting back to City Hall? How's that? What's the timeline on that? What's the expectation for the staff?
So we actually are fully returned to work at City Hall. There
Oh,
are
awesome.
opportunities for individuals to identify a 20% remote work week schedule if they're supervisors or if their job permits it. But we are back to work. City Hall is open, and so we're back to operating.
Thank you, Ms. Hardy. Any other questions?
That happened in June, by the way.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on if there's no other questions. Justin, do we have anyone on the line by chance?
We have no attendees.
All right, so looks like we'll go ahead and skip item 3.1 and 3.2 since we do not have any participation, and jump down to item 3.3, which is going to be our public comment, which is going to be our written correspondence. And I will open it up to the commission in regards to if anyone wanted to respond or talk about the written correspondence.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please, Commissioner Cannon, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to call attention to some more articles I had sent to commissioners regarding reparation. The articles seem to be getting better and better, and it's pretty clear that there is movement in different pockets of the country to explore the possibility of initiating reparation, and I think that's encouraging, although I think we can't identify a place where it has actually happened, but I'm encouraged by that. And I did send one article which is not dealing with reparation. It's regarding Vincent Chin, and it's an old saying, funny how time goes, but it's been 39 years since Vincent Chin was murdered in Detroit because people thought that he was Japanese, and the reason for the slowdown in the auto industry that happened in May of whatever 39 years ago would have been, was that 72? Yeah, no, maybe 82. And it's an interesting but sad article. You might remember when we were talking about, we did our first coffee conversations on the subject of hate crimes. Vincent Chin, Matthew Shepard, and James Byrd were the 3 individuals probably most prominently known as being victims of hate crimes. And I'd like to say that hate crimes are behind us now. There won't be any more, but none of us can say that with certainty. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cannon. And I really appreciate you, paying attention, sending this information and sharing with us. I really encourage you to continue to do that, as well as everyone else. We just level up when we have an opportunity to have that information, just be able to kind of sit back and take a moment of pause. And it also complements what we have coming up here, at least 2 pieces of the 3 articles, what we have coming up as far as our next conversation. So
and we'll say that one of the benefits of retirement is I have time to read several newspapers every day. So able to spot those things as they come up. Thank you.
Yeah, from what I can tell, you're the most active reader that I know alive. I mean, you read books like in one night. You read almost every article that's out there available to you. So please keep it up. We love that energy. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on if anyone does have any other comments in regards to our written correspondence. All right, that leaves us to item 4, our special presentation from our neighborhood resource specialist, Tanya Williams. Welcome. It's good to see you again. And I'm not quite sure if you have something that you want to present or you want to just open up for questions. It's really free flowing because I did get to the meeting a little bit late. I didn't get a chance to kind of really talk to you real quick to see how you wanted to do it. And I know you have been talking to several other bodies and things like that. So you please let me know or let everyone know how you want us to kind of do this for you.
How about I just go over a brief overview of what it is that I do and how I guess the position came to be, and then I can just open it up for Q&A. How does that sound?
Perfect.
Good. Awesome. Okay, so where shall I start? Well, the neighborhood resource specialist, I'm sure, as you know, is a new position within the city of East Lansing, and in the police department itself. It is something we've never ever had before, and it is part of the response to the civil unrest that had happened last year because of George Floyd and the incident there. I am one of 2 new positions. We also have incorporated social workers into the police department. East Lansing, from my understanding, a lot of other departments right now are kind of watching and waiting to see what happens with the NRS position. I know there are a lot of other departments that currently have social workers on their roster as part of their community policing initiatives. However, it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of civilian activity that happens amongst police departments. So that's where I come in. I am a non-sworn civilian position within the department. And ultimately what I do is focus on the LLCs, if you will, low priority calls, long-term problem solving, and community engagement. The low priority calls is what you're going to typically hear when it comes to taking specific found property reports, taking bike larceny reports. I think that those calls are going to ultimately expand further as we kind of, as this role continues on. And we see where we can step in and kind of have some of this interaction and take over calls for some of our law enforcement officers so they can handle the top priority stuff. And then from there with long-term problem solving, I mean, if anybody's aware of East Lansing, we know that there tends to be issues that really sometimes there are no solutions for, or it requires a lot of additional follow-up that police officers just can't do. Even though they work 12-hour shifts between taking all their calls, having to write their reports, and then having a sporadic, unplanned schedule monthly. This is kind of where NRS gets to come in and be that consistent follow-up that allows for not only the follow-up, but the accountability aspect when it comes to those long-term problem solving. And then community engagement. I think that everybody is kind of very happy to get back to moving forward with life a little bit. And I see that we are starting to open things up to community involvement. So that's where we step in there too.
Thank you. All right, that's a great layup for us to kind of get a feel for the room here. I'll open it up to any commissioners that have any direct questions in regards to Tanya being here this evening. Yes, please go ahead, Commissioner Catherine.
Yeah, Tanya, thanks for being here and for doing such great work. Sounds amazing. I was just wondering, what are some areas of opportunity that you have identified where maybe the Human Rights Commission or other areas of city government can collaborate with in some of the initiatives that you're doing? I imagine that you have some events associated with just community building in general. So if that's an area of opportunity, but I was wondering if you have identified others areas of partnership as well.
So that's a fabulous question. So thank you, Commissioner Catherine. Right now, I'm going to be honest with you. We are kind of still in this planning no man's zone, right? I came in January and we were still in shutdown and all the things were happening. So as things have begun to open up, that has really allowed for us to get more involved and interactive in the community. As for the Human Rights Commission, I think that one of the areas I think you guys may be most beneficial will be when it comes to the citizens of East Lansing who may have a lower economic status than what most people recognize when it comes to the city. I think in working with MSU and some of their FSL team members and things like that, it seems like that I think everybody views East Lansing to be a very, well-off community, and that people here have a lot of financial means and income, which is very true. However, there is still a population within the city that aren't necessarily as fortunate. So one of those areas would be considered what we call Deer Path Apartments, that is Section 8 housing, along with 1777 Hazlitt Road, which is senior community housing, also Section 8. I know that sometimes they tend to be a lost group of people. So what I'm currently doing right now is working with one community member who lives in the Deer Path community on creating their own Deer Path Community Association. The way that the city is laid out, they are technically a part of a specific community association. However, I don't believe they actually get any information from that association. And also, if we're being honest and realistic, people who tend to have a lower economic status don't necessarily feel confident and comfortable going to those events anyways, and being outside of their own peer group. Coming from somebody who lived in that situation, that's true. So that's kind of where we're working. That's one of my big things that I'm working on right now. So that could be very helpful.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Thank you. That was a really great response. And just thank you in general. I've been really impressed with your visibility this past year, especially given that in the midst of a pandemic. So I know that's not easy to develop a new role in the city and when everything's shut down. So I really appreciate the efforts towards visibility and communication. What has, because you're, it's almost been a year in, a little less, what's really surprised you about this role or about the city?
So for those of you that don't know, I actually used to work here. I was here for 5.5 years as a police officer. And then, I left, COVID happened, business and all the stuff. And I came back specifically to this role because it was something that we had never had at the department. And I think the one thing that is, I guess maybe it's not so surprising because I recognize this as a police officer, but I think what's surprising is how awesome it is, to be honest. And that's the fact that, so under the police department, I still have specific policies and procedures I do have to follow, right? It's just where we're at, being city employees of the city and things like that. But I think what's even more awesome is I still get to work outside of the box and come up with solutions to problems that I necessarily would never have been able to do as a police officer, having to follow specific laws. So I think that's the one thing that was really surprising is, one, how open people are to those out of the box solutions, and two, how effective they can be when you're not necessarily held up by law and all the red tape that comes along with it as a police officer. I think that's probably one of the coolest things ever to be able to see happen.
Thank you. Anyone else? I have just a few questions or comments, if you will. I've heard nothing but great things about you and your team and what you have been doing and making a difference already with some of the different contact with the community. As you know, we ran into each other the other day in the meeting. And so I'm just a little concerned with your numbers and just kind of how many of you are and your time. And then with us having about 45,000 students coming back, and just kind of really, being still effective, are you, or is there any conversation within the public safety department about more people, a reorganization, or just working a little more? Is there a plan, I guess, really in regards to, some of the different things that will come back? Because as we talked before, there will be about that many kids coming back, and they've been pent up for the last couple of years. And I know you guys are kind of doing some preemptive strike type things. Can you speak to that just a little bit?
So when you're referencing our numbers, are you talking about us as like the police department in general, or are you talking about NRS specifically?
NRS.
Okay. So, oh, I'm so excited. This is going to be fantastic. Let me tell you, see this smile right here? Yeah, I know it's coming. It's going to be a green wave happening. So as far as I'm aware, I haven't heard any other conversation about adding more people to the NRS team right now. And I really would probably say that's because we really don't know what the work's going to look like, right? We all started during the pandemic when things were very shut down. And honestly, I would say that was really good, to be honest, because without it being so busy, we've been able to really identify what it is that we do, the areas that we are very helpful, the areas where we could be more helpful coming up. So I think that as we get into the fall, the tasks that we're allowed to do by law, right? Because there are things that we cannot do just because we're not sworn officers. I think that we're going to start seeing the scope of what NRS does still continue to shift and change. But when it comes to timing and students, really, I think what we're working on right now is finding the resources that they need. So we work in conjunction with the social workers, which is fantastic. As a matter of fact, short story, because I've been working with the fraternities with MSU and building that relationship with them, I actually had a fraternity president. He was actually a member who helped us look for our missing resident a month or two ago. He reached out to me because they've been having some issues with a brother and substance abuse. I think that a couple of the deaths earlier this year have really been very impactful on them. So he reached out to me and I was able to get him in touch with our social worker. Even though MSU has their own mental health, capacity there, they went that route and it wasn't working. So instead of trying to go to the back to the same place, he reached out to another area. But I don't think he would have done that, one, had we not been here, and two, had I not been building rapport and a relationship with them in the first place. So I think that really working proactively in that area and with students is going to be a huge factor. I've also been in touch with Sue Webster with MSU, who's helping to facilitate some of the orientation and stuff like that, to help get the word out about issues that students are having that are those long-term problem-solving issues, but there's never really a person on the city side to have consistent follow-up with, in addition to that accountability. But I think, like everybody, police officers, city employees, and NRS alike, I think we're all getting ready to white knuckle through the fall and see what happens. And I mean, is it possible there could be more NRS team members getting added? That's entirely possible, but we're not really going to know until we kind of make it through this fall season.
Yeah, thank you. And so I did talk to, I can't remember the officer's name at that meeting. And then it seems like there is a couple of things in place for you and the whole team that's, getting prepared for that. And just jumping out in front of some of the different things that may come in play. I was just curious if there was going to be any changes to your Pacific team. My other question that I have for you real quickly is, you've been doing this for a little bit less than a year. And I know you've been responding to all kinds of different calls and people in the community. You talked a little bit more earlier about some of the different demographics. Is your team tracking who they're having contact with? Is there a database that you're building right now? Because I really think as we go forward and as you and your team develop, what you're doing out there, that to be able to kind of show what difference you're making and things like that is you're really keeping track of kind of who you're having contact with, what calls you're having contact on, and and so on and so forth. Has there been any discussion, or is there something in place with that right now?
Yeah, so we have a couple of different ways to do this. So the first way that we have is what is called our spreadsheet, right? And this is really kind of like those one-time contacts. So one of the things that that's coming down the pipeline for us is we do have an NRS vehicle. It has the city emblem. It says neighborhood resource specialist on it. Those vehicles are actually going to have lights. We're going to have green lights, kind of like our DPW workers. And so we've been able to sit on like one-time calls, like down utilities, broken pipes, things like that. And that's getting tracked on as minutes spent. Then there's another area that we create what's called a referral. So anytime, let's say we have a resident who emails the city on the city website, we're having XYZ issue in our neighborhood, that gets sent to a specific person in admin. That then funnels down to us, and then we create a referral for this, create the contact, do the follow-up. And then in the referral, you have the initial narrative of why this referral was created, the date, who it came through. And then we also track that referral based upon sector, which, east or west, sector 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, things like that. And then in another section, we are able to type in all the follow-up that has been done. So for instance, I had a civil issue between two neighbors that was kind of spiraling out of control, quite frankly. And finally, I had referred her to the, I think it's the Greater Lansing Mediation Center over in the Lansing area. And all of the contact between the emails from her, the emails from the neighbor, my emails, it's all been listed in there in addition to any other resources that were sent to her. So there's that form of tracking. And then the last form of tracking is what we call kits. And a kit basically, so I mean, we're going in order of, I guess, a level of severity. And the kit is where it takes more than one department. So a referral is really NRS, right? It's just what we do. Maybe we might use an officer here or there, but the kit really comes in when it requires the officers to step in. And that, that comes down to traffic problems. The Starbucks on Grand River and Stoddard, that's been an issue with traffic backing up onto Grand River, accidents, all that stuff. So it's kind of in a level of severity. So there is documentation about what it is that we do, who the referral comes into, and all that stuff is saved to the point where if we get a referral, we can search by name or by address to see, had we been there before? What were the steps that were taken? Who were we dealing with before? And then the other thing is too, and the reason that this is really important is because officers get their calls from the dispatch center. Dispatch center basically is a great record and log for them. We also get calls from our dispatch center, but a vast majority of the contact that we make is through these referrals, whether that's an email directly to one of us, whether that is from a supervisor asking us to step in and kind of work in that capacity. So really it is actually very important that we have these referrals so we know who we're talking to and what action steps have been taken.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I know, again, you as a team, you're still evolving and things are getting figured out. But I just really think, demographic, male, female, ethnicity, age, student, non-student, resident. I think all those things eventually will be very, very important data pieces that will come back. And so the sooner we get that built up, because not only does it really show the difference that you're making and the effectiveness that you have on the community, it really kind of also speaks to who you're representing, especially with what you mentioned earlier about some of the different housing quadrants that we have out here in our community. So I just wanted to ask that. And my final question, but before I just want to make sure we acknowledge Councilmember Bacon, just in case he wants to jump in there and acknowledge his attendance real quickly, if you don't mind, real fast.
We're all good. I've got nothing.
All right, so Councilmember Bacon, can you just go ahead and just for the record, state your attendance where you're calling in from for the Zoom, please?
Present, attending virtually from Clinton County, East Lansing, Michigan.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. So we have, we're evolving from HRC to doing what we're doing now, and then we have the police oversight going to be happening. They're going to be doing a little community outreach in some way. Do you see your team working with them in the future down the road? I know that's kind of a general question, but do you see there's some kind, and I know you were a commissioner for a short period of time, so you're a little bit more intimate of who we are, what we were doing. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I really honestly, I could see that getting feedback from the oversight committee would be very beneficial, right? And the reason that I say that is because I think I'm fabulous and I have amazing ideas and I know where we could go and where we couldn't go. And I think we all feel that way, but having that external resource that may see something that I haven't seen, that, might have a different idea of how to solve a problem that seems to be consistent. I think that's going to be very beneficial for everybody. Officers, NRS members, social workers, and the community.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Does anyone have any other comments, questions for?
I think Pat has his hand raised.
Oh, yes, please go ahead, Commissioner Cannon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Williams, I'm glad you're here and I appreciate your comments and helping us understand better what you do and what you don't do. So if you bear with me, I have a two-part question. I'm getting the impression that you may be called to serve in areas where there is escalating situation that needs defusing. And the other part of that is you also get involved in situations that may not necessarily be erupting, but still could benefit from your weighing in on it. And with that, it reminds me of the ongoing situation this commission has been aware of taking place in the Brookfield Neighborhood Association. Have you had any conversations with Commissioner Liz Miller on that issue?
I am not aware of the Brookfield neighborhood issue that's happening. So if somebody would love to share that with me, I'd love to hear more.
Commissioner Miller, since it's your neighborhood, could you comment on that?
Yeah, that's about the neighborhood. Oh gosh, my mind is mush tonight, so my language is not gonna be great, but the neighborhood covenant has historic racial restrictions written into the covenant that because of a whole long list of reasons has not been able to be removed, and there's been some efforts at different ways to get that removed. So it's a it's an ongoing issue.
Wow. Okay, have not.
Commissioner Miller, there's language in the association covenant that says the person agreeing to move into that neighborhood and becoming part of the association agrees that they will not sell or lease or rent or otherwise make their space available on a housing basis to particular minorities. And it's just blatantly discriminatory. And we've heard explanations that it's not as easy as it sounds to take that language out of the document. And that, I think the last word we heard from the association presidents is that they are aware of it and they know it needs to be taken out, but it's really hard to do and expensive. Is that an accurate summary, Liz, of where we're at?
There's also a bill working its way through the state legislature on this issue to make it easier. And the neighborhood is working, the neighborhood has to have 100% of property owners, and it's a neighborhood with both rentals and with absentee landlords and residents. So it started before pre-COVID, a few months before COVID, effort to get 100% of property owners notarizing the change. It's obviously, it's a historic language that because of the 100%, they've not been successful at tracking down all of those homeowners previously. So obviously not enforced. And there's a separate document from the neighborhood that says we do not support this language. Yeah.
We've been talking about this for a very long time, and my concern is that I'd like to see us or somebody do more about it than has been done in the past. And this is the kind of circumstance that I fear may erupt in an incident at some point, and we can hear members of the community saying, why did this language, why was it let stand for so long? If they knew, why didn't they do something about it? And I would like to see us do something about it, but I can't define what the something is other than there's a famous quote that says something like, all that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to stand by and do nothing.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Cannon. Did you want to chime in again, Vice Chair?
No, I was going to say it's been a long source of frustration for many of us, and a lot of multiple avenues are sort of being worked down at the same time, each with the same frustratingly slow process.
Well, I mean, I would be happy to help in any way that I can. I think probably the one thing I could do is, try to reach out to the homeowners who might have houses that are rentals there that might not be so easily able to be found. I mean, I would be happy to help with that, especially because at this point, I can see how that would be an issue moving forward, how that could cause, a very stressful, if not volatile situation. And ultimately, that's one of the reasons we've got resource in the title is not only do I help people, connect people to resources, but I can be a resource for others. And so if that means that I can reach out to this person and say, hey, here's what's going on in your neighborhood. This is what people are talking about. Would you like to join in on this? I would be more than happy to do that. The only thing that I would ask is that, if I reach out to do that, that I have specifics that I can give them, whether that's where they need to go to sign this petition, where I can email this document or send it or things like that, having all the resources and supplies and materials ready to go. So when I find them, or if I'm able to reach out to them, then I have that instant follow-up I could do.
That's excellent, Ms. Williams. I was hoping you would say something like that. And Vice Chair Miller, could you gather some of the documents that would offer some background information that might be helpful to Ms. Miller?
I'll connect with our neighborhood president who is overseeing that process, because it's a notarized, it's a very specific, there's multiple things requiring notary signature. So I don't want to sort of mess that up, but I'll make the connection with Ben, our president.
Thank you, Liz, and thank you, Ms. Williams.
Yeah, you're very welcome, sir.
Thank you. So yeah, did I miss anyone else that wanted to ask or comment in regards to Ms. Williams in her time tonight? Yeah, we appreciate you. So I'm not quite sure. This will be the final thing from the group, and I'm assuming that this will be okay to bring up. But right now we are starting our program up, which is called Coffee and Conversations, which is our way to reach out to the community on specific things. I think our first one's going to be in the topic of reparations and things like that. And so we go to hate crimes. We do all kinds of different things we've done. I think we've done 7 or 8 of them in the past, and we
Chuck, we've lost you again.
Looks like you get to be up, Commissioner Miller.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know where he was headed.
Got it back.
Was I gone?
Yep.
Yes.
Just for a second.
And we missed you.
Oh God. So I'll just say, are you interested in getting involved with our coffee conversations going forward that we have based on many conversations of community issues or community concerns and things like that, or someone from your team down the road? Probably not while you're in the busy season of school getting started here like that, but a little bit down the road Would that be something you would be interested in possibly?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, the more information that gets out there and the more questions we can answer, the better for everybody. So yeah.
All right, I'll shut up because I'm having internet issues. And so does anyone else have anything else to add while we still have Ms. Williams? Ms. Williams, we really appreciate your time tonight. If there's anything we can do for you, I know we've been talking about what you can do for us in the community. Please let us know. We'd be more than happy as a body, as commission, as individuals to support some of the different things you're doing out there. And we just really, like I said, just appreciate the work that you're doing out there when no one's looking.
Of course, you're very welcome. And I do have one request, actually. If you happen to come across any training, I know that I'm doing the training that we're doing for like the next 9 months with the city of East Lansing. Hi, Elaine. So I'm doing that, which is awesome. I'm like actually really excited to participate. But if you happen to come across any training or seminars or anything that you think would be beneficial for NRS and the team members, then please, by all means, you can send that to Sergeant Park, or you can send it to me and I can send it to him. But we're always looking to better our skills and our knowledge. And I know for us sometimes, it's hard to find things. And I know with the resources that you have and the things you're connected to, you might see something come across your desk that stands out for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Anything else before we let Ms. Williams go do her thing out in the community? All right. Thank you, Tanya Williams. We appreciate you, and we will stay in contact with you and hopefully collaborate going forward.
Great. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good evening, everybody.
Take care. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to item 5.1, new business. And it is return to in-person meeting discussion. I know, I believe, what little I do know, please correct me, Councilmember Bacon or Elaine Hardy, that council is looking to possibly be starting in-person meetings in August. And that's kind of really the standard for going forward, I think, for the rest of the other commissions. I just want to get some feedback from commissioners or liaisons or staff in regards to in-person meetings.
I guess I'm unclear what your question is, Chuck.
No, I was just trying to get a feel for if anyone had any comments in regards to us possibly starting to meet in person going forward. I know we had talked a little bit about in our sub meeting about meeting over at Hannah as our new location and the timing of all that based off what council is going to be doing starting in August.
Yeah, I think technically you can probably reconvene your live meetings whenever you want. I have to get an actual legal opinion for when they'll designate that we're all have to be back into live meetings, but I think you guys can begin to have those discussions around convening for August, September, whenever you want to reconvene. We haven't gotten direct instruction to return, but I think that's for you guys to decide.
You know, does anyone know? Please go ahead, Catherine, Commissioner Catherine.
Yeah, just for reference, has the city council already gone back to in person?
We won't be on the July, or we only have 2 meetings in July and August. So next Tuesday is the July meeting. So potentially by the time the August meeting rolls around, we could be back in person again, but that's kind of summer, like the low session in the summer. So that may be a subject that comes up on Tuesday's meeting. So.
Okay. That makes, okay. Thank you, Councilmember Bacon. I thought that discussion was already kind of, so you'll be having more discussion in the next meeting about going forward. Okay, understood. Thank you. Any other comments in regards to item 3 or 5.1? All right, I'll go ahead and move on. I kind of jumped ahead here. Item 4.2 is about meeting location discussion. Elaine, did you want to speak to that just real quickly about kind of, because I know you had talked about it, I could easily talk about it, but I know we were meeting in the basement of City Hall and we kind of really wanted to open up to the commission to see how everyone felt about possibly meeting over at the Hannah Center, which has a lot of pluses in regards to why we would do that in our meeting. Please go ahead, Commissioner Catherine.
No, I was just wondering, is the purpose of this discussion to come to a decision, even if the decision is we'll decide next meeting?
I don't know. I didn't think of it as a decision. I was just kind of opening it up to get a feeling for where people were at with it. Unless Vice Chair Miller has a different take on it, or
I think it would be I think it would be nice to leave this meeting with a consensus about where we're meeting and how we're meeting for our next meeting and what month that meeting will be in.
Okay. Yeah. So we are low on business. Generally speaking, we're not very active with our topics right now. And so has been a tradition of us taking either July or potentially August off and then resuming our meetings in September. And I think Vice Chair Miller is laying up for me here for our discussion. Does anyone have any thoughts in regards to possibly not having a meeting for August and then following up, whether that's in person or whether that's going to be Zoom or what have you, or over at the Hannah Center in September? Yes, Commissioner Cannon, please go ahead.
For one, I'm interested to resuming our meetings in person. And as cozy as that little room is in the basement of City Hall where we've been meeting, it sometimes feels we're kind of crowded in there. I don't know what kind of meetings are available at Hannah Center, but my experience there has been that it's more open and welcoming and inviting to community residents who might want to come either watching what we do or weigh in on what we do. And I would like to see us resume those meetings in person no later than September and perhaps as early as August.
Okay, so I think because I didn't lay this up very well at all. So I think there's two things. One is thinking about us meeting at all in August. And then the second part of that is where we are meeting if we do have, in fact, meet in person. And I think Commissioner Cannon has kind of really addressed the second part of that he's open, as well as I, and I believe Vice Chair Miller have no issues with meeting over at the Hannah Center and having it serviced going forward there. So is there any other comments in regards to where that possibly be? Yes, Commissioner Catherine.
It wasn't about where, so I can hold on.
Okay. Any comments? Yes, Commissioner McWhorter, please.
Yeah, do you know if the meeting spaces that might be available to us at the Hannah Center would have the capacity to support one or more commissioners attending remotely? Or do you know how we would handle that? I'm not sure that my comfort level is there yet.
Yeah, I know very little based on just our conversation I've had with Ms. Hardy that once we are in person, I believe, and we're committed to that, we will not have access to being able to do things online. Is that fair to say as what we know right now, Ms. Hardy?
That is fair to say. Right now, the only meetings that I understand that will be supported by a virtual platform are City Council and Planning. So those are the only ones as of right now that I understand will be supported.
Okay, so that would be I think a source of concern for me personally, because just from a safety standpoint may make our commission meetings inaccessible to me.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. We are missing a couple of our commissioners, and I would be curious to hear their thoughts and as far as public safety and all that as well. Anyone else? Yes, please, Commissioner Catherine.
So about meeting in August, I didn't know that there was sometimes we would skip a meeting historically. I would just make a suggestion that if we're having a coffee and conversation this July, we might get some traction and we would probably want to have a meeting in August to kind of continue that traction. That's just an idea. So my suggestion, or at least my position, would be for us to still meet in August. However, that may turn out to be.
And I apologize. When is the coffee conversation in August planned right
This
now?
Sunday, this
It's-
Sunday.
Okay. Oh, it's for this Sunday. Wow.
Yes.
Okay. I'm okay. Gotcha. So any other comments regards to Commissioner Catherine's reevaluating maybe our August meeting and still going forward with that?
I wonder if we could, since it's this Sunday and that gives us ample time before the August meeting, if the folks leading that coffee and conversation could touch base with the chair or myself about if there is, something that's urgent and time sensitive that would require, and in general, when we cancel a meeting, it's with the caveat, unless there is something time sensitive that comes up, like a complaint or something. So that way we will sort of the wait and hear. If there isn't, we can take it off the schedule, but we'll know as soon as early next week. Yeah.
The only thing about that, and I could be wrong, is if we leave this meeting now and then wait for that to happen, we won't have a meeting to actually have an actual vote not to have our meeting in regards to August. So that's the only little hiccup, I think, to this plan of kind of waiting and seeing, because
Can we make a vote that says pending, or unless, that says we won't meet in August unless there is pressing business? Will that give us enough time for public notice? Because that's really
yeah, I mean, the meetings, like you said, it's Sunday the 11th, and then, wouldn't be scheduled to meet until I think that the 4th of August, if we did do that. So there's plenty of time for public notice, there's plenty of time for us to kind of get that set up within that time frame. So a motion in regards to that would, I think, from my perspective, would be appropriate. Is there a motion in regards to that? Yes, Commissioner
I
Catherine.
can move that motion.
Okay, so so I just want to make sure I understand the motion and the public understands our motion, and we're all kind of whole with how we're looking at this. Can you state the motion for us if you can?
Yeah, I'd like to move that we skip the August meeting unless there's pressing business to be discussed or complaint that turns up causing us to have a meeting.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Cannon. Is there any more discussion in regards to the motion on the floor? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed to that motion? All right, so moved. All right. And just for clarification purposes, the people leading that meeting on the 11th will get a hold of myself or either Vice Chair Miller in regards to, based off what that is going on, and or if we hear something from the liaisons as far as a complaint or anything that we need to address. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're clear and clean, because I did not jump into new business very clear with what I was doing with that. So thank you for bearing with me. All right, is there any more discussion in regards to the status of our August meeting after the vote? All right, we'll go ahead and move on to old business, item 6.1, and we have the HRC complaint status update.
Yep, I can take that one. So as you recall, we received a complaint regarding possible discrimination by a police officer. ELPD opened an internal investigation into the complaint that involved a traffic accident. And I was informed this week that ELPD did finish that internal complaint and that the chief has issued a disposition on that. So that's a finding of whether the police officer committed anything against policy or possible discrimination. They are reaching out to the complainant this week to within the next week to communicate that. So I would hate to give this commission the disposition prior to the complainant knowing, but just know that that is wrapped up and communication from ELPD is going out to the complainant very soon.
Thank you, Shelley. Any questions or comments? All right, we'll go ahead and move on. To item 6.2, community engagement updates, and we have our coffee and conversation, which we've been kind of discussing a little bit, set up here, and they have the flyer all locked and loaded here. And I just want to, is there anything that you would like to speak to, Commissioner Cannon, in regards to the 11th by chance?
We've had some discussion around that event a little bit, but we're going to gather hopefully with several community residents in attendance this Sunday at the Blue Owl Coffee Shop, starting at 2 o'clock, expecting it to run till 3 or 3:30, maybe longer, but most of our events like this have not gone quite 2 hours. So we think that's the longest that it's likely to run. And the subject, as you all know, is reparation, what it is and what it is not. And I don't know anyone who could answer that question real succinctly and clearly with conviction. So the idea is not to come away from that with any firm direction on where we're headed, but at least view that as a first step toward beginning to get some answers to those questions. So again, that'll take place this Sunday at July 11th at the Blue Owl Cafe, starting at 2 o'clock. And we know that Commissioner Honey will be there. And Elaine, do you plan to be there as well?
Definitely.
Good. Okay. I'll be the guy with the white cane.
Thank you, Commissioner Cannon. And my question is, as far as the participation, is it just going to be represented by the commissioners and East Lansing staff, or is there any special professionals or anyone else that we know of, at least right now, coming to this event?
No, we have not. Well, we have not invited any quote experts on that subject, and just view this as our first step in opening conversations on it.
Understood. Thank you. Any other questions or comments in regards to the 11th coffee and conversation?
It's not too early to start talking about the next coffee and conversation that will more likely take place in September. We've had a few subjects raised as a possibility, but no determination made as to what the September event might focus on.
So the only thing I can say to that is I've been talking with, and a little bit with Elaine Hardy, with the Housing Commission, and maybe doing something collaborative with them as far as our coffee conversation, and really honing down some of the topics, you know, maybe talking a little bit more about the Brookfield stuff and bringing some energy to that amongst some other things that are going on in our community. And that's kind of there, we're you know, with you know, collaboration with another commission and the timelines and all the staff that's going on with that. That's something that I've been talking with the chair over there about a little bit. And like I said, just real briefly with Elaine Hardy in regards to someone from that commission, getting a hold of them and trying to start looking at that for our next one. I'm not quite sure that'd be for the one for September or not, but that's kind of what I got so far. Yes, Commissioner, or Councilmember Bacon, please go ahead.
Yeah, just I think the housing would have a great deal of gravity that'll fall right in line with the housing study and everything else that's going on, and perhaps allow for some collaboration. Me and Director Hardy were talking as well about some greater collaboration between housing and human rights this cycle. So I think it's the timing will be impeccable, and you'll have a lot of backup coming out of the housing study. So it might be, you might get a packed event because there's a lot of stuff swirling around housing, from the overlays to, you know, just everything. I think that could turn into a really big event.
Chuck, you said you've had some conversations with the Housing Commission chair. You know if she plans to attend this event on Sunday?
I do not know. I have not asked her specifically about her participating in that. I've talked with her just real directly about the possibility. One of the things that they were concerned about, because they're not, you know, they haven't done coffee conversations and all kind of stuff. She really wanted to make sure that she was not going to be an OMA violation. She also wanted to make sure that the majority of the commission wanted to do this with us. And so we were figuring those things out up to where we're at now. From what I do understand is that everything is a geo. We're just trying to get some logistic things and topic things kind of narrowed down right now. It sounds like not only myself is talking with the chair, but Elaine Hardy and Councilmember Bacon have also been looking at this. Once we kind of get a little bit of a foundation, I think we can start building from that going forward. I'm hoping that we can get things turned around by September. You know, you would think that that's enough time, but it's possible that, you know, it may not happen there. So, just in case with all that, I was wondering if anyone else had any comments about what topics possibly were interested in for them to kind of really think about as far as our next conversation or coming up with that possibly. Did anyone have anything else? Because I know Commissioner Cannon, we had talked about it before, and we had come up with some different things, and I don't remember specifically what we had talked about.
Nor do I.
Okay.
It was very, very loose conversation.
Yeah. Do any of the commissioners right now, does a community issue or conversation or information or awareness thing that comes to mind when it comes to building off our next coffee and conversation going forward? Yes, Commissioner Catherine.
I just would hate to miss the opportunity to collaborate with the Housing Commission. So if there's a suggestion that I can make is for us to do that as our next coffee and conversation. I'm all about like going with what the community's already talking about. So that would be my recommendation, and then we can think of things later down the road.
Sure. And you're saying, and I'm not trying to. So are you saying that no matter what, if they're not, if possibly for some crazy reason, we're not ready to do that with them in September, hold off still with that, with doing a coffee conversation in October, but not do anything between? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, no, I'm assuming that we would be able to do something in September with them. If we would not, I have nothing as of right now, but I can think of something. But yeah, no worries. I was just trying to get some clarification. And again, I think with all the energy we have with the liaison, Councilmember Bacon, Elaine Hardy, and some previous conversation, I think we might be just fine with that. But I was just trying to see if there was anything out there. Please, Councilmember Bacon, go ahead.
Yeah, and we'll have a lot of momentum, hopefully at that time too, coming off of Dr. Robert L. Green. That can be spun right into that conversation as well. There'll be pretty big conversations happening around desegregation and those types of things, and we'll hopefully be coming out of several local events. It might just be a lot of synergy around having that conversation right at that time. I think either way, it's going to work out just fine. I think you're safe with that date. If we can't get all the powers that be together, we can still. That's going to be a good conversation. Everyone wants to have that conversation. I think that's housing's the one thing I have the most conversations about. If once you start talking about it, you're going to even if we have to downsize it or something like that, we can get it in, fit it into that space. So you'll get plenty of community buy-in and input. It just has a lot of energy. So,
all right, I'm with you. Sounds good. Just out of curiosity, who's chairing that? Is that Councilmember Watson, the Housing Commission?
Who's the liaison for housing? Is that what you were asking, Chuck?
Oh, I think we lost Chuck again.
Oh no. I bet he can still hear us. Was that how? Liz, was that how you perceived the question?
I think that was the question.
I believe housing is Dana. I'm not 100% sure. I think two people, there's probably a person and a backup for housing. I'm not sure who's the top liaison for them.
Good. Looks like I froze there for a second, but I did hear that last part. So did you wait for me? Because it seemed like I came back just in time.
I don't know if you could hear or not. Like, no, I did. I believe it is Dana. I don't know, but I can't remember if housing has a person and a backup, but I think Dana's housing. But I can look it up and let you guys know. I'm not 100% sure.
No worries. Yeah, no worries. Thank you. So let's real quickly acknowledge Commissioner Sardar and his attendance real fast here. I did see that he jumped in there.
Good evening, Tyson Sardar from East Lansing, Michigan, Ingham County.
Thank you, Commissioner Sardar. All right, so we'll move on to item 7, Commissioner concerns. our comments. Do we have any concerns or comments from any of the commissioners tonight? All right, seeing none, I actually don't have anything to chat about tonight as well, which is very, very rare. So I will move on to item number 8 and look for a motion for adjournment. Moved by, I'm sorry, moved by Commissioner Catherine, I believe seconded by Commissioner Cannon.
Yes, please.
Discussion? All right, thank you tonight for the meeting. We'll stay in touch in case something changes about our August date. And thank you all for your participation this evening. Appreciate you.
Okay.
Take care. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank
Yep,
you.
bye.